my Facebook page and YouTube. Is it? Oh, well, only on the screen. Hey, can you zoom out a little bit, because I'm going to not cross the front of the pulpit, but I do see myself coming over here as I am wont to do. There's a telephoto in wide, a little lever. This is what they call on-the-job training. Amen. Amen. Hey, Eric's here. He and Lily are going to come in. That's good. That's good. It's good to see some folks come in, getting out of their driveways and things like that. For those joining us in the live stream, this is the new streaming platform, and I am working on getting it to where you can see the slides. But please rest assured that whatever is on the slides is something I say. So it's not like, what's that? Oh, I thought you were talking to me. Oh, okay. Oh, good. Oh, okay. Yeah. I was like, what? What just happened? All right. Right on. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you, men, so much for your help with that. And we're going to have better lighting. It's going to look a little bit less dark up here going forward as well. And so we're going to go ahead and do that. What's up, bud? Oh, okay. All right. It is a snow day. It is a snow day. And I love it. All right. Good deal. You're going to make me nervous. Just do what you're going to do. Or just hush the pastor. That's a good plan, too. All right. Good deal. I'll leave that to you, Kev. All right. I love church, don't you? I love getting together. I do. Who's got a blessing this week? Anything good happen to anybody this week? Or anything bad, but it was a blessing anyways? Somebody's got to share something. Tobe? Boom. Yes. We had plans on Saturday to go hang out with some friends we haven't seen in a good while down in Portland. And then the weather happened. But it provided a really cool opportunity for us to reschedule and to spend time together as a family. Yep. Kim.
Morgan and Savannah pooled their resources, and their plan was to take me shopping to buy these new clothes. We were supposed to do it yesterday, but we rescheduled for next Saturday.
Yep.
It's funny, I can see the roles reversed.
Sure.
Take care of me.
Yes. It's one of the most wonderful things about having 4 children is 4 times the security in our old age. No, I'm just joking. Oh, man. Good stuff. What has happened this week in your life? Anything you've been reading in the scriptures? Anything you feel like you've learned, or you've been put through the crucible and you've seen the warp and weft of God's hand in your life? Anything? It's okay if you haven't. That's all right. Kev.
We had to make a hard decision yesterday, but we made it as a family.
Amen.
It went over okay.
Good. It was whether or not to watch the extended release of Lord of the Rings versus the theatrical, wasn't it?
No.
Oh, okay. What's that? Oh man, I walked right into that one. Raga?
How awesome it is to have one place to stay, how really we are lucky. I was thinking about I wouldn't want to be up there.
Yep.
It's not crazy, but it's something we don't take. We take for granted. We're born into. I was born into it.
Yep.
Maybe you think like our ancestors, they didn't have as much stuff as we did. Of course, it could be better, but you got to be grateful for it.
Yeah.
Grateful that you at least have that. You don't take it away pretty easily by others. So, of course, there's really nothing you can do about it. But
yeah. No, I like it. I like it a lot. Wifey?
I was just talking to Pete this morning about how we are in this time where we're living right now, if, you know, a blizzard like this, before we had the sleet and snow clouds and everything, you might really have to stock up and not be able to go out for a week because you
Yeah.
can't get down the road,
Yeah.
let alone out of your driveway.
Yeah,
So
it's true.
you'd blessed to be able to, the very next morning after a blizzard like this, we can just hop out and go do what we need to do.
Yep. Yep. The goodness of God prevails even in difficult circumstances. Yep. Aileen.
Well, I'm grateful. My husband, his doctor's appointment. I'm grateful that, he got to spend more time at home, but not a couple of days because of the doctor's appointment. So, the storm, obviously we don't know the storm was coming, but on his day off,
Yeah. That's good. Enjoying spending time with your husband. That's right. Good. I'm glad. Good. Yeah, I'm thankful for a lazy day Saturday. I told my wife, I've been telling her this for weeks. I said, I think as humans, it's really good for us mentally and as to mature, is that you've got to do something you really don't want to do every day. You got to do something you really don't want to do every day. Most days it's like, and again, I really love my job, but let's face it, there's some days I'm just like, I don't want to go anywhere. I want to stay here. As much as I love my job, right? It's just tough. I love my job very much. Sometimes, even in our flesh, we all know that church is awesome. We love the Lord. We love each other. But there's a lot of times we say, man, I'm just not going to do church today. Yeah, I get that. I've been there. But that's where maturity comes in, right? Because little children don't do what they don't want to do. They need their parents to tell them, right? But as adults, we've got to be our own parents, so to speak, and say, I'm not going to be a little indulgent child. I'm going to be a disciplined adult, and I'm going to be there. I'm not just talking about church, I'm talking about work, I'm talking about shoveling. When I was first married, my wife could attest that when I was first homeowner, I was in my, mid-20, 25, 26 maybe. And we bought the house on Sewell Street and it snowed. And I thought, well, what do I do now? So I got a shovel and I shoveled a narrow path, right, down our drive. And this was when in Augusta where you have door-to-door mailmen. And so then I realized I have to shovel a path horizontally as well for the mailman,
For fuel delivery at your house.
What's that?
For fuel delivery at your
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, that's exactly right. And for fuel delivery. And there's so many different things, and I didn't really think about them. Well, early on, I would just trying to skate by with as little as possible. And there were times we'd get a big snowfall, and I didn't have to go anywhere for a couple of days, and I wouldn't shovel. But then by the time I got out there and shoveled, the snow was heavy, and it had, I'm not exaggerating, inches of ice. It felt like it anyway. Just it had rained and soaked and rained and soaked and frozen and thawed and frozen and thawed. And it was a nightmare. And there was one winter that I basically just let it go, and we just kind of walked on top of it. And I thought, this is embarrassing. But as an adult, I can't do that, right? I've got to do the thing I don't want to do. You could if you want your life to be ruined, right? So why do you say all that? Well, yesterday I got up and I was like, all right, we got a day ahead of us where we really don't have to do anything except kind of maintain the snow. And, but then I thought, I often think Saturdays are good, but I've got to find a way to do something I don't want to do. It's just a little thing that I do. I got to. Well, I got a call from Ralph. He said, hey, I'll get in my van and go if you want me to. He's not really supposed to be driving yet. He goes, but Deb needs her medicine. And it wasn't in Topsom or Brunswick. It was the next town over in Cook Corner. So I had to drive down to Cook Corner and grab it. But it was actually a really fun adventure because it was during this blizzard when nobody was crazy enough to be on the roads, right? So I felt like Mad Max in Beyond Thunderdome, like Arctic Edition. I was in my truck and there's no lanes on the highway. It's all snow, no lanes. And you can't see very far naturally. And so I merged onto the highway. behind a plow. I could see the lights and the plow. I didn't know that I merged right in between a plow and his caboose, the pickup truck that follows the plow with the lights that say, "Don't come between the two of us." I went ahead and did that. And then I got into the left lane and passed the plow and driving. It was quite an adventure. And what started out as something that I didn't want to do ended up being something that I think was profitable. It was a cool experience. I had fun. I turned on my radio, Apple's radio, just to see what was on. And I've been on a music discovery kick. I want to hear all these hits that everybody listened to, when I was a kid and we could only listen to like Southern gospel. And so sure enough, what's his name? Thorogood's song came on, Bad to the Bone. And it was perfect too, because I'm driving in the middle of this hail, not hail, but a blizzard, and I'm trying to get medicine for somebody I care about. And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh yeah. And then the lyric came on. I was like, this guy is not cool. This is not a good song. No. Oh, not a good song. But I felt pretty cool there for a solid 15 seconds. And I'm like, dude, you should be in jail based on your behaviors. But yeah, don't look up the lyrics. It'll ruin you for life. So there's that. Anyways. All right. I've talked a bit. Let's sing a chorus. God is so good. God is so good. God is so good. He's so good to me. Now, that doesn't mean things are always good. It can't. Let's sing that one more time. God is so good. God is so good. God is so good. He's so good to me. I hope if you're watching the live stream, you were singing along with us. I overcame my insecurity and didn't mute my microphone because I don't want to mute it for everybody at home. I don't. God is so good. Well, when is God good? Don't make me turn us to Malachi, right? When is God good? Segue, Joseph could have been asking the same question when he's in a pit, right? Could have been asking the same question when his brother said, hey, not profitable for us to leave him in a pit. We don't get any money out of this deal, right? Who was that? Simeon who said that? Knucklehead. Could you had Reuben, Judah, and Simeon, right? The three of the top dogs of the 12. Well, let's turn there. Genesis chapter 37. Genesis chapter 37. And you might ever find it really interesting that in Genesis 37, it opens up by saying, these are the generations of Jacob, Joseph being 17 years old. And then chapter 38 has nothing to do with Joseph at all. Anybody ever notice that? I never noticed that, Pastor. Good. That's why we're here in church. You learned something, right? This is good. Yeah. Chapter 38 has nothing to do with Joseph at all. And then chapter 39 brings back Joseph right into the picture. So it's almost like a meanwhile. It's really cool. So next week we'll be in 39, but read 38 if you want to. It's a pretty sad story, but you see God working in the warp and weft there anyways. All right, I'm going to start my timer. Boop. Keeps me in line. Warp and weft. Quick review. What does it mean, warp and weft? Well, like we talked about last week, in weaving, you have your warp and your woof, or warp and weft. The warp in this particular picture goes up and down. The weft goes left and right, or right and left as it were, to create a tapestry or a weaving. Your shirt, your coat, your jacket, your hat, your pants, your t-shirts, they're all made this way. You say, well, mine's made of like pretty much plastic, right? Rayon, polyester. They still weave it. It's still woven, right? Why does this matter? And we talked about the series title this this series. You have to forgive my brain. I'm running on 1 cup of coffee when normally I'm at about 4 right now. Amen. All right. So this is Elohim Kasab Tov. Elohim Kasab Tov. And as we know in English, that translates to the supreme God was weaving this for good. That word kasab is a very powerful and it's a cool word that paints a picture of what God is doing behind the scenes. So at the end of this adventure, Joseph looked at his brothers and said, "You meant it unto me for evil, but God, the supreme God, was weaving this into good the whole time." And the lesson is that no matter how bad some individual threads may look, it is for a greater good. Some might say, "Oh man, this is a really bad blizzard." I know, but for the earth, it was a good blizzard, right? It needs to be saturated. And you say, "Well, I don't know if the earth needed it." I understand that. And I'm not trying to be overly superstitious here, but I believe that our God knew that the earth needed it. I believe that good does come of even some of the nastiest things because God means evil for good. There was nothing good about Joseph's pain when he was tossed into a pit. There was nothing good about Jacob's pain when they told him your son was killed by an animal, right? There was nothing good about the pain and the devastation caused in Potiphar's family, right? Nobody thinks about that, right? Potiphar's got to live with this woman, man. There's nothing good about those things individually in and of themselves. No sane person would look at those events and say, those are good events. They were downright tragic. But in the end, where we often do not look, in the end, they were woven together for something great that saved the physical world and is a picture of our deliverer who saves us spiritually as well. That makes sense? This morning's title is How the Heart Works. How the Heart Works. Our text is Genesis chapter 37, verses 5 through 35. How the heart works. Last week we read of how Joseph's brothers couldn't stand him. Couldn't stand him. You say, "Yeah, I can't stand my brother sometimes too." Not like this. Yeah, sibling rivalry. This wasn't sibling rivalry. This was just rivalry. Especially when you grow up. I said when you grow up, not necessarily when you get older. When you grow up, you put those sibling rivalries away and you just love each other. All right, I've lost a brother. And one brother is estranged. I got one left. I'm going to treasure him, right? We grow up and we put away childish things. This was not a situation where there was just a typical sibling rivalry. In fact, I was going to have a whole assignment about this, but we're just going to do it really quick. I want us to think about how Joseph's brothers viewed Joseph. What do you think, and we're going to keep it G-rated, but what do you think they called him? They're out in the fields in our text today. Look at Genesis chapter 37, verse 5. He dreamed a dream, told his brethren, they hated him yet the more. Bummer. Hey, listen, guys, this is what I dreamed. We were binding sheaves in a field. My sheaf arose and stood upright, and your sheaf stood round about and made obeisance to my sheaf. Okay. His brothers said, "Are you going to reign over us and have dominion over us?" And they hated him the more. Then verse 9, and he had another dream, told his brothers, "Hey, guys, I dreamed another dream. This one, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me." So it's funny, right? Because if the first dream wasn't clear enough, it was just a bunch of sheaves falling over. This one says the sun and the moon, mom and dad, and 11 looks around, counts. Yep, 11 stars made obeisance. So he told it to his father and to his brethren, and his father said, "Dude, keep it shut," right? Look at what his father said in verse 10. His father rebuked him and said unto him, "What is the dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and thy mother and thy brethren indeed come to bow down ourselves to thee to the earth?" It's almost like he's like, "I'm all right with your brothers bowing to you because I'm cool with that already anyways, hence the," right? But what I'm not cool with is you saying how your mama and I are going to bow to you. That's just messed up. That's too far. So not only did Joseph alienate his brothers, but his father, who is, already got him on a pedestal, not exactly sparing him from the dreams either. I hope that makes sense. All right. Hope it makes sense. Look at verse 11. His brethren envied him, but his father observed the same. Now, look at verse 12. This is something I didn't think about until I studied for it this time. And his brethren went to feed their father's flock in Shechem. And Israel, or Jacob, right, said unto Joseph, hey, don't your brothers feed the flock in Shechem? Come, I'm going to send you to them. And he said to him, here am I. Question for you. Why wasn't Joseph out there with his brothers? He's 17. He's totally old enough to be an apprentice shepherd at this point, even his own a shepherd on his own. You know what I'm saying? Right? What's that? Yeah, he's the baby. Yeah. But I mean, remember when Samuel was like, let me see your sons, Jesse. And Jesse's like, oh, the youngest one was the one out in the fields. Right? Yeah. So like, why isn't Joseph with his brothers? My thought is because he's the favorite. Amber?
And I also thought that maybe his dad also saw their empty of him and thought,
Maybe I ought to separate these guys. Not a bad idea, right? But think about it. What was Joseph's job? I think we get a hint, and Steve mentioned this last week. What was Joseph's job? Joseph was the narc. He was the narc. That was his job. His father, he gave his father their evil report. He said, these guys did a bad job. So Jacob is sitting here saying, hey, don't your brothers feed the flock in Shechem? I'm going to send you to them. Why? Well, look at the next verse. Go, I pray thee, see whether it be well with thy brethren and well with the flocks, and bring me word again. Why would he have to ask him to check on them? I'm not saying that. I'll put it this way. I'm not under the impression that Jacob was worried about their welfare. I'm just not. It could be. You can go either way with this. But Joseph often brought his father a bad report about his brothers. Probably meant that his brothers weren't really that trustworthy. And there's different reasons for this too. But when he went to go find him at Shechem, he didn't find him at Shechem. They were 4 to 8 miles away in Dothan. Some would say, well, that the greener pastures were there. That's fine, but the whole point is these guys probably weren't exactly the most trustworthy shepherds. They were bad kids, bad adults. Kim?
Is this before or after their sister Dinah's?
Oh, good question. That's a very good question. Judah deceived by Tamar in 30. That's a good question. It's got to be after.
Well, that would give Jacob
Yeah, it's got to be after.
keep track of.
I'm sorry, I don't know that. I feel like I should know that. Death of Rachel. Anyways, I'll let somebody else smarter than me find it. But come on, Jacob. Laban. Okay, it's got to be after. All right. It's 34. Okay, there it is. All right, so go check on your brothers. All right, now we're about to get everything get worse. Here we go. You got 21 minutes? Yeah, probably merged to like 25, but we're good, right? All right, here we go. Joseph, already to testify his brothers, is with his dad when he's given an assignment. Go and see how they're doing. His brothers see him coming, the narc, the big shot, the daddy's boy, the favorite. What's that? Yeah, goody two shoes. Yeah. And you say, Pastor, that's kind of mean. No, I had to, I'm like method acting here, man. I'm like writing this and I'm like, I got to put myself in the brother's shoes. I have to. And I did. And so here's what happens. They're in Dothan. A certain man was, Joseph asked, hey, where's my brothers, And he goes, yeah, they're in Dothan. So he goes to Dothan. Look at verse 18. Would you look at verse 18 of chapter 37? And when they saw him afar off, even before he came near unto them, they conspired against him to slay him. They see Joseph coming. No one's like, hey, Joseph, we aren't like, you're not our favorite. You're kind of a horrible kid. You're a goody two shoes. We know you're hiding something. We don't know why dad likes you. Oh, are you getting your royal robe dirty by being out here in Dothan talking to us? But they weren't just antagonizing him. They were so bitter against him at this point that they were plotting to kill him when they saw him. Pretty good opportunity, right? They're out there in Dothan, at least 8 miles away from Shechem, or at least 4 to 8 miles away from Shechem. Here's how bitterness works very quickly. It's born paltry, but pervades. It's born petty, but piles up. It's born personal, but poisons. Bitterness starts small. It starts with things that maybe shouldn't even bother us as much as they do. Or if they're supposed to bother us, they bother us more because we can't stop thinking about it and we feed it. Does that make sense so far? Bitterness typically starts small. Even bitterness that starts large, someone has greatly offended you and sinned against you in a big way, even bitterness that starts that way gets bigger if we feed it. But note the last point, it's born personal, but it poisons others. Ladies and gentlemen, in a group, I beg attention, in a group of 11 people, some of them were probably a little bit more bitter against Joseph than others. That makes sense, right? We're all different. In fact, I know for a fact that Reuben wasn't as, bitter against Joseph as some of the others. Does that make sense so far? But it was in the group that some of these brothers went to the others and said, hey, here he comes. This is our chance. Hey, here he comes. This is our chance. And that began to spread around the group of 11 brothers. And they said, you know what? Now's the time. If we don't do it now, it's never. If we don't do it now, it's never. And then it occurs to them. They're all the way in Dothan. It's the perfect opportunity. And it's here that we'll have a front row seat into just how the heart works. I typically don't make it a practice to pray before every message, but I haven't done as much of that this morning as I should have. So I'm going to have a quick word of prayer, and we're going to jump into it for the last 20 minutes or so, and I hope that we'll all learn from the text. Sound okay? All right. Lord, I love you. Thank you so much for the day that you've given us today. Thank you for your goodness. Thank you for your grace and your mercy and your kindness. And I ask that as we go to this survey of how the heart works, that you would allow us to introspect appropriately and to use these lessons that were given to us as an example for our learning in a way that brings us closer to becoming like Jesus. It is in Jesus' name I pray. Amen and amen. All right. Everybody okay this morning? We all right? It's a snow day. We're all kind of dragging. I get that. But I believe there's something here for you and for me. Okay. Step one in how the heart works. It is alliterated. Some of them are a little bit of a stretch, but I'm going to explain them each fully. If you leave here saying, oh man, Pastor used a bunch of words that I didn't understand, it didn't make a lot of sense to me, then it's on you because I'm going to explain each one. All right? We good? All right, I got a couple. And my son gave me a thumbs up. We're in good shape. A principal pitch. In other words, it's a spark of inspiration. It's the initial thought. It's that, hey, I could do this. Make sense? Sometimes we have those when we're just driving along and we say, oh, I just got an idea for an invention. And you go to file the patent and somebody already filed it and made all the money that you should have made. Has that happened? Yes, twice. Ladies and gentlemen, standing before you is the man who invented the iPhone. I came up with it. I did. I was looking at the iPod. My son's like, Dad, come on. I was looking at the iPod, and I also had my flip phone. I had an iPod Touch. And I said, you know what? Why wouldn't we just combine these two? The technology is easily there. And I'm not even joking. I think it was 1 year later, the iPhone was released. AT&T exclusive. Should have been a Michael Britt exclusive. And for what it's worth, I invented the two-headed toothbrush.
What?
I did. Why take all the time brushing your top row and then shifting the toothbrush all the way down that whole 1.5 inches and brushing the bottom ones again? You're using twice as much energy for something. It makes so much sense. So I look online. Are there any patents for a two-headed toothbrush? They're all over the place. I ended up buying a 3-headed toothbrush. You say, don't, Brett, don't. I'm serious. I did. This is not just a rabbit trail. I got to wake you guys up. I bought a 3-headed toothbrush. Imagine 2 toothbrushes with the facing each other. And now imagine an uninvited guest comes into the party and faces that and gets right in the middle of them from on top, right? So you have 2 bristles facing each other, and then you shift dimension to the Y dimension, and you got another one coming in from on top, and the bristles are facing those 2 facing bristles. Does that make sense? Have I described it well? Ish. What you do is you then place that like a mouth guard right over your teeth, and you turn that little thing on, and it tickles so badly it's nearly unusable. It's really bad because you got 3 of those things, and I'm telling you, squeaky clean. I used it like 3 times because it tickled so badly. It was terrible. So now I'm back to just using a regular charcoal brush. But I had the spark of inspiration for the 2-headed toothbrush and the iPhone. Oh, it's a toothbrush. It's made of bamboo because we're really crunchy in our home. Plastic, chemical. We don't like them. We don't like them. So the thanks to Amber, she's helped me. She's made a convert out of me. And so it's a bamboo handle, and the bristles are charcoal infused. And so you never need to use toothpaste. I'm just joking. I didn't know. All right. I'm having a fun time up here by myself. It's cool. All right. I'm doing this on purpose. I really am. Does anybody else have an example of a time when you had a great idea before anybody else did, and then you discovered that it was taken? Tobe? Yeah. Nice. And that exists? Dude, patent that thing. So it's a fingerprint sensor on a trigger. James Bond had it. Judge Dredd had it. That's a good idea. That is a good idea. And again, I have a reason for doing this. I promise I'm not killing your time on purpose. One more. Anybody else had a spark of inspiration where something occurred to you and you're like, that's a great idea? If you don't, that's fine.
My brother, we didn't really need my brother, but, he's born.
Oh, so we went right to murder? Is that what we... Oh, okay. Oh. Okay. All right. We went there. Okay. All right. So think of this. There are some bad decisions that we make that are impulsive. You don't really think about them. They usually don't tend to be as damaging, usually, as the ones that require at least a few seconds of thinking. You say, what are you talking about, Pastor? Stay with me. Step one in how the heart works, something occurs to you. Something happens in your head where you say, I want that. It could be two chemicals bouncing off of each other in the brain where you say, I want that chemical. It makes you want to smoke, or makes you want to drink, or makes you want to engage in sexual activity. Just something in the body goes, I want that. Or you see something and a billboard of, I'm going to use the cigarettes as an example. There's cigarettes on a billboard. You hadn't been thinking about smoking, but now you are because you saw something, right? It's that principal pitch. An idea was pitched to you from within or without, but now you've got the idea in your head. Does that make sense? That's step one. Step one in how the heart works. Step two in how the heart works. A pleasure pictured. And I chose a little flashy thing for introducing that one on the slide because that's the neurons in the brain firing. Now you're imagining how good it would be to hold that cigarette between two fingers and bring it up to your lips. You understand what I'm saying? A pleasure pictured. Or you're picturing, oh man, the last time I was sitting at a bar with a friend having a drink, oh man, I know I shouldn't be drinking because I have a real problem with it. I can't go back. It's not safe for me, but man, I really want it. Or, oh man, I remember the glory days of riding so fast in my Mustang and driving down the road. I really just want to have those. But we picture the idea of something that we've either had before, or we picture what it would be like in the future. What about sexual sin? Oh man, there's a young lady, or oh man, there's a young guy. Oh boy, I just love to. And we start to picture what that pleasure would be like. Does that make sense? And by the way, this doesn't have to be where you sit down and meditate on it consciously. It happens like that. It happens like that. I learned how to sell when I was in U.S. Cellular. Not very well. I'm no longer in U.S. Cellular, right? But they would always say this. Somewhere in your pitch, paint a picture in the customer's mind of what it would look like. I think that's one of the most effective ways to do it. It really, boy, this iPhone, I noticed you have a flip phone. Can you imagine you're stuck in the line at the DMV and you open up a game on your phone? You couldn't do that before. What I've done is I painted a picture of what it would be like to be in line at the DMV with nothing to do. And then I created a solution to the problem that I've created. Are you with me? Don't you want a phone? No, I'm just joking. But you see what I'm saying? Painting a picture of what it would be like. Boy, I really don't want to do that. I know it's wrong to do that. But now in your mind, you've got a picture of a version of you committing something that you know ought not be done. Step three, a pernicious plot. Now you've moved beyond the thought occurring to you, and you've pictured what it would be like to engage in whatever it is that you want to do. And now you begin to plot to accomplish it. You start to think about what the obstacles would be if you would be caught, how bad the consequences would be if you would be caught, and what a good escape. You understand what I'm saying? Yep. Number 4. I'm rushing right through these. A permissive plan. This is the key one. Now we make a plan to give ourselves permission to do it. Are you with me? We rationalize about why it's okay to do it, why it's not that bad, why it's been a long time, why, well, it's not going to hurt anybody. Are you with me? Do you understand what I'm saying? I hope you do. A permissive plan. We start to plan to give ourselves permission to do this thing. We maybe lessen it. Oh, how about this one? I know I shouldn't have dessert. I just ate a large stuffed crust cheese pizza all by myself. And now the brownies are staring me in the face. I know I've got 2,400 empty calories that are clogging the arteries of my heart. But I really want those brownies. And there's no permission plan going on with Kevin. He's like, I got the idea. I'm going for it. Amen. He skips all this stuff. No, I'm just joking. All right. But think about it. Permissive plan. What do? We bargain with ourselves. Well, it's been a long time, right? Well, I haven't treated myself in a bit. Well, I'm going to go to the gym later. Come on, saints. It's my birthday. It's my birthday in some timeline. It's November 6th somewhere, right? We start to give ourselves permission. Step 5. There's 7 steps. Step 5, a prepared ploy. This is when you make up something to cover for yourself. This is when you make up something to cover for yourself. I've actually, since we're on the subject of food, I've heard people say, oh, I'm hypoglycemic.
Amen.
And it's like, look, I want to believe you, but I don't, because you don't look hypoglycemic. I look in the mirror and say that, right? Well, it's been a tough week. Hey, it's always a tough week. You see, we make these little ploys to cover up what we've done. Oh, how about the man who's struggling with temptation in his marriage? They used to teach you all the time, especially in Bible college. In Oklahoma City, there were a lot of places of ill repute where one could frequent. It's not like Maine, right? Are you with me so far, right? And there were some very close to the Bible college. And they would tell the young men, hey, here's how you can drive around the block so you don't have to drive right by it, right? Basic avoidance practices, right? So that thought doesn't get put in your head in the first place, right? So you can avoid step 1 at all. That make sense? Okay. Permission would be, well, it's not going to kill me. I'm not actually doing anything. I'm not married, so it's not cheating on my wife. A prepared ploy would then be coming up with a story about why you showed up at the dorm 30 minutes late. You understand what I'm saying? It's a crazy, weird illustration. But the point is, a ploy is something that you are now preparing to cover your tracks because you know what you are doing is wrong. Sometimes it's as simple as telling a lie or deleting your browser history. Other times it's as complicated as making up an extended story that you've got to make up to get people to believe you. Does that make sense? All right, step 6. A permeating pitilessness. You say, come on, Britt, you're going crazy with these. I told you I was. You know what happens after you begin to engage in this cycle of sinning, rationalizing, and covering up? Is you begin to develop calluses. It doesn't bother you as much anymore. And now you're becoming a liar. You're becoming a cheater. You're becoming a thief. You understand what I'm saying? And it all started with step 1. A thought, a spark, a neuron firing off in the recesses of your brain that says, that would feel good. Or in the case of these brothers, yeah, we can shut him up. We can put that goody two-shoes down forever. He won't ever bother us again. And it all started with that thought. They saw old Joseph coming to him, coming all this way. And they thought while he was approaching, now's the time. And instead of quelling that thought, as soon as it arrived, they began to plot. You see what I'm saying? And then step 7, a painful price. But you'll notice it wasn't the brothers that were really ever hurt by this. They got exactly what they wanted. Who was hurt the most by this? Dad. Dad. In fact, you can read from the story that Jacob was never the same from the time that they lied and said that he was dead all the way till he met his son again. Because it was such a meaningless death. He sent his son to walk, to go to Shechem to check on his brothers, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere, listen, if there had been reports of wild beasts, I don't think Jacob would have sent Joseph. Are you with me? And then meaninglessly, it was so random. Why, of all people, did it have to be his son, his beloved son? He sent him out to go check on his brother, and he was attacked by a beast. Where is God now? What happened? I thought I was the favored one. I thought I was Jacob. I thought I was the prince of God. I thought I served the king. And you let this happen? It shattered Jacob. Come on, saints. It shattered him. Why? All because 11 brats didn't like to deal with a bad report, didn't like to deal with somebody telling the truth. And their bitterness grew so deep, and it manifested itself so presently that they allowed those 7 steps to take place in their heart from the time it took Joseph to be within eye range all the way up to their presence. Does that make sense? I hope it does. I hope it does. So there Joseph was, now sold into slavery, all because of the bitterness and sin of his brothers. Because you know the rest of the story, right? Look at what it says. They saw him afar off, verse 18. Even before he came near unto them, they conspired against him to slay him. And they said one to another, hey, look. That's what behold means. Hey, look. The dreamer comes. The dreamer comes. They were making fun of him. It was a mocking moniker. Come now, therefore, and let us slay him and cast him into some pit. And we're going to say, some evil beast has devoured him, and we shall see what will become of his dream. What was that? Oh, well, that's a pernicious plot. You see what I'm saying? First, it was that spark of inspiration. We could kill him. Then they pictured what it would be like to have life without that goody two-shoes. Are you with me so far? I hope so. And then number 3, they perniciously plotted against Joseph. But then look at number 21. Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands and said, don't kill him. Thanks, Reuben, for standing up. Verse 22, shed no blood, but cast him into this pit that is in the wilderness. Oh, can I take back half of those thanks, Reuben? Right? Reuben was, in fact, later on, when Jacob is talking to his children, he says that Reuben is unstable and he won't have the blessings. This is the instability. He's got enough of a heart to stand up and say this is not right, but he doesn't have enough of a heart to lay down his life to defend his brother from something that's going on that's terrible and indefensible. You hear what I'm saying? We don't need more men who are going to stand by and say, hey, guys, this is wrong. Let's compromise. No, that's exactly what the other step is you giving yourself permission to do something wrong. Well, I'm not doing the worst possible thing, but let's just settle for this, right? Come on, saint. Well, I'm not stealing from the store. I'm just keeping the change that they gave me. Besides, they're going to earn it back in 10 seconds anyways. Well, I'm not lying about the car's performance. I just didn't tell them about all the details, right? Giving ourselves permission. We're rationalizing around why it's... I hope I'm reaching some of you. I hope this means something. So today there's 2 lessons from the text. First, bitterness is a progressive poison. Bitterness is a progressive poison. I want to share with you how I've seen this. First, the Bible says they hated him and couldn't speak peaceably to him, right? Is that right? Yes, that's right. Secondly, they hated him even more. It says it twice in the text. Then they envied him. Then they conspired against him to slay him. And then they had the callous pitilessness. They didn't even think twice about the heartache that their father would experience. Did you ever think about that? They didn't even think twice about the heartache their father would experience. They just grabbed the coat, put some animal blood on it, and said, hey, Dad. Well, look at what it says. Verse 31, they took Joseph's coat, killed a kid of the goats, and dipped the coat in the blood, and they sent the coat of many colors, and they brought it to their father and said, this have we found. Know now whether it be thy son's coat or no. And he knew it and said, it is my son's coat. An evil beast had devoured him. Yeah, he's right. An evil beast did devour Joseph. An evil beast called bitterness and jealousy. He said, Joseph is without doubt rent in pieces. And Jacob rent his clothes and put sackcloth upon his loins and mourned for his son many days. And all his sons and... Wow, the irony. Think about this. Verse 35, please think about this. And all his sons and all his daughters rose up to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted and said, I'm going to go down into the grave unto my son mourning. Thus his father wept for him. And that's the end of our text today. These 11 boys had the audacity to go up to their father and lay their hand on his shoulder and comfort him for the crime they just committed against him. Reminds you of David and Bathsheba and Uriah, doesn't it? Reminded me of that just now. Didn't think about it till just now. In walks Uriah. Here to report, my king. Hey, Uriah, awesome job out there. Shakes his hand, gives him a hug, a holy kiss, knowing that he just robbed Uriah of the most precious thing in his life. Are you hearing what I'm saying? To faith. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to submit one thing to you about this lesson. Joseph's brothers didn't start that day planning to end it by lying to their father and shaking his hand and looking him in the eye and saying, I'm so sorry for your loss. They didn't start the day planning on doing that. How did they do it? Listen, this is my central idea of the text for you this morning. Their hearts took advantage of an opportunity and maximized that opportunity for their gain. A lot of times you don't sin until you have the opportunity. You're a real good person until you have the opportunity. Man, I would never steal. Yeah, wait till you're broke. I would never lie. Wait till you got a gun to your head. I would never. Just wait. People are like tea bags. You put them in hot water and what's on the inside comes out. And Joseph's brothers hated him so much that as soon as they had the opportunity, all that was on the inside spread out like a poison, like a venom, and overtook Joseph and would have killed him, but rather sold him. So that's the first lesson. Bitterness is a progressive poison. Here's the second lesson. There's always an opportunity to stop the cycle, the process, the progress of sin. Always. Say, Pastor, it seems like since we've been in Joseph, you're just preaching on sin. It's not real encouraging. The encouragement is all over this story, and we're going to get there. Later on in the story, it gets awesome. It gets bright. It gets sunshiny. We'll start singing Brady Bunch songs. It's going to be tremendous. But for right now, we're looking at a really ugly chapter of a really ugly action. And I want to just say one more time that these 11 brothers did not wake up that morning planning on intending to murder their brother. It wasn't part of their plans. Saints, this is my last slide. We've seen how the heart works, and I want you to take the opportunity to reflect on your hearts this morning. I'm not asking you to reflect on something in particular so as to grovel and think about how terrible you are. Look, if you're forgiven, you're forgiven. But can I ask you to reflect in this way? Consider some of the worst mistakes you've made that you can't take back. They're probably not mistakes that you woke up that morning thinking you were going to commit. The worst things you've said were almost certainly said in the heat of impulse. There's the timer. The worst things you've said were probably said in the heat of impulse. And I think for most of us, the worst crime we've ever committed, we committed, not necessarily legal crimes, but crimes against God. We committed because we had an inspiration, an idea. And we might not even divide it out exactly this way. And you thought about how that idea pleased you in some way. And then you began to plot for that idea. And then you begin to prepare a ploy for that idea. You begin to think of what would the consequences be? Well, I guess it wouldn't really hurt. Well, I guess it's not going to. Well, I guess it. And we start to rationalize why it's okay and give ourselves permission. But in the end, there is a price to pay. And it's an ugly chapter. And this isn't a fun message. But my job as a pastor your pastor, is to warn us against the things we never see ourselves do. If I could put it this way, and then I'll try to wind her down. If I could just put it this way. I saw a picture on social media this week of a guy who was served chicken tenders. Chicken tenders. I think it doesn't matter what branch it was. I don't want to get anybody in trouble. It was a fast food restaurant. KFC? I think it was. All right. Okay, here we go. Cut open the chicken tender after taking a bite or two and found that it was raw chicken in the middle. That's a little different than raw beef. Raw chicken, potentially a little more dangerous, right? Starts with salmon, ends with Ella, right? You get it? It's bad news. He took a picture, posted it on social media. This is terrible. Understandably terrible. This guy put this chicken, on his plate or whatnot, took a bite, assuming he knew what was inside because he hadn't looked on the inside. You know what I'm saying? Silly illustration, but I just want to encourage you, saints, please don't assume how you're going to react when you're put in hot water. Please don't assume that you're going to have victory over every thought that comes into your head. Because if you walk around with that assumption, you're going to get yourself in trouble, and there is going to be a painful price to pay. I confess to my wife what my weak areas and moments of opportunity are. I do. I share them with her. Why? Because knowing is half the battle. Well, that's true, right? But I say, hey, if I'm in this situation, or if I'm in this situation, or if I'm alone in this situation, those are areas where I'm more tempted to do wrong. Why do I do that? Because I don't want to assume that I'm going to win every battle that comes my way. Come on, saints. Anyways, I hope this makes sense to you. That was my lesson today. Please take the opportunity to take an inventory of your heart and say, Lord, have I made a habit of giving into these impulses? Has it become a cycle? Then please help me break it. If I could get some help with the Lord's Supper, that would be awesome. Thank you. We say, Lord, I feel like I'm not losing a whole lot of battles, but have I let my guard down? In my spending, in my words, I'm just trying to hit it all, right? In my generosity. I think about my generosity, that hits hard personally. I feel like I used to be more generous than I am now.